earlier than normal, 6:35. Normally I start at 7, let alone if I was going to be online tonight. The good news is I've accomplished my mission. I'll talk about that. I'm keeping the topic very generic, but there's been a lot of, call it note taking over the last week or so. It's pretty attention getting. Okay, so I'm just reading from something here. I'm just going to go over these notes just to make sure I cover these topics. It's very generic. So right now, I've said I'm wanting to run a C++ 100%. I had to back off because of the cost. It was just becoming a major rabbit hole. I'll go into details about that in a minute. I'll tell you what the solution are, and it kind of got it working within a few hours, which is quite amazing. Um, so I guess the first question is just how to get started with quant trading. I think the easiest way is with hello, Colin Marhaj. How are you? I haven't seen you on any of these before. Welcome. Hope you can stay on longer than well, if you can do the whole thing. That's great. If you got questions, let me know. So anybody who's starting out in quant trading, Python and C++ are the definitive choices. Python for research and definitely, if preferably, C++ for the execution. I'll go over how I've merged the worlds together and how I thought I could put it all in C++, only C++. That was a very expensive rabbit hole, as I said earlier. So some of the things that tripping ticks on Python for finance. If you're using a good AI, combination of Kimi K3 is quite good. I haven't tried the new Quant Quen 3.8 yet, and I think that's out. I know it's on Hugging Face. It's supposed to be quite capable of up to Opus 4.8. I don't know. In here, we could talk about all the different libraries and packages that you can do with Python. I think with Python now, depending upon your goal, you might want to try to work with code that has as few dependencies as possible. Thanks for the like. Uh, and that's probably the same that can be said for C++ as well. Um, Now, market data is really important. I've talked about the disadvantages with interactive brokers, with the uh, aggregation of data, the problems of stale orders, stale data that a lot of the high frequency shops can take advantage of. That's on the interactive brokers. Data pipeline into the CME if you're doing futures and options. If you need a better solution, I would strongly recommend Rhythmic through any global reputable futures broker. Just look for, they'll probably give you as an option Rhythmic and just sign up for that. Get the API, get the market data. $140 US is what I'm paying. So you're able to get better data, much better quality. Well, it's not even aggregated. It's like real time. I've shown that in one of my videos last week. In terms of the algorithmic strategy development, this is the tough part. How do you get trading ideas? Well, I can go over some of the ideas that I'm using now, which work beautifully, and that's why I'm kind of back back to using Python and then using C++ for the execution on this system, I guess you call it, and I tried to get working and using all the trading strategies and bots, same lingo for me, from my perspective, and being able to use that as independent trading bots against a Rhythmic trading gateway server. Next up, we got QuantLabs community. Obviously, we got YouTube. I've got a pile of other stuff. One thing for people to know, I'm somehow not blowing up on Instagram, but I'm seeming to get quite a bit more love now on Instagram, all the platforms. TikTok's not being very nice to me, so I don't think I'll see a lot of things happening with TikTok. But Instagram, yes. LinkedIn, yes. So that's kind of my community. But I'm trying to push more on the quantlabsnet.com website with a forum that I have there under groups. Also, I've got the new website Substack, which is pretty good in itself, the orderbookedge.com. And then I also have hftcode.com, which is kind of turning out to be my profit center, which is a Shopify store. So it's hard to build a community on that website because of Shopify. So that's kind of the options I have. As I said before, the primary thing I'm pushing is this quantlabsnet.com as well. And the thing's telling me, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe and like, get notifications and all that fun stuff. Okay, so if you got questions, let me know. A couple other things I want to mention here. C++, this project gotten really big. It's gotten really massive. The number I've spent in the last week to try to get this working is over $1,000 now. Well over what I've ever wanted to spend on anything AI related. The big cost comes from Opus. A couple other things I can mention here. All right, so I mentioned this tool before. If you're using VS Code as your primary coding editor or IDE, what happens is I'm using an AI tool called CCline. That thing degrades as you use it more and more, and it gets really bad. It freezes, so I am no longer relying on Klein anymore. It's an open source tool. RuCode's been abandoned now. There's Kilo. I don't think that's very good. The only options that are out there for proper AI tooling with VS Code is the only real option left is Hugging Face. I've never used Hugging Face, but I always thought that Hugging Face includes all the more advanced models like OpenAI and Claude. They don't. They're only open source, but they do include Kimi K3 and the new Quant 3.8. So what I can say about the Kimi K3, it's very capable. It's very good at debugging. So there is that. The thing with Hugging Face, which I've never used, uses the extension of GitHub. So obviously that from Microsoft. So you shouldn't have any problems with Hugging Face at all using it. I would think this is not open source like Klein. So that is the really only decent option. I don't trust Cursor. The other problem is with these tools that are out there in terms of to your question, Navido, let me get to that in a minute. But I just want to clear up a very important thing here. If you're using AI for coding, namely more advanced languages like C++, there's a problem here now. We're now going into the world with the Claude 5 models and the OpenAI 5.6 models. We're now entering into a situation where they're trying to monopolize here. So they're trying to lock whatever tool you use, let's say Claude Code, and you're on the Claude models. The only entry-level model to work from is Haiku 4.5. All the other options really you have is Sonnet 5, Opus 5, and the new other one, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it. The Mythos one. Anyways, doesn't matter. You're being locked into only using those models, which are very expensive. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or runs about that. Also, if you're going to use an OpenAI tool like Codex, same problem. So that's how they're locking you in, and you don't have options to other models. As I said, the only other option is the more advanced Chinese models like the Quen and Kimi K3. So those are the only options. And right now, I haven't tried it, but the only thing that might work still is, as I said, Hugging Face, which can be free, but you have to pay for the modeling, or use the actual tool set from Kimi or Quen directly. But I don't know if I trust giving these servers or these services my credit card information. It's just too much they're already collecting as it stands. Okay, so let's get to the questions. Navido says, what do you store the data, or where do you store the data? I have terabytes of data, but I can have it run locally on my PC. Yes, I do run it locally as part of, okay, let me up to date where we're at. So I have this amazing, I've shown it before on my videos, Python gathering tons of data, news, option data, future data, building out bots, trading bots, da 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 da. I keep everything local, okay? And they're just flat files. There might be a collection of, for back testing, the PDF and the PDFs and a massive spreadsheet. So I keep that all local, but they eat up a lot of memory, okay? So there's some, so everything, that answers your question, Navido. So let me continue on that. They probably take up a lot of space. Now, I'm just confirming with the latest coding changes, going back to what has worked in the past. I'm probably watching 3,600 trading bots with all the code and all the back testing stuff on it. That is a lot of data to store. That's all local. So I just collect it. But I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to think, do 3,600 bots, 3,600 data files, log files really add up to a lot? And the answer is yes and no. Majority of those trading bots in Python are worthless because they don't profit. There's no chance of them profit any time. So as a result, they don't really mean a lot. So the big purge I can take from that is to use the top 10 most profitable bots and just dump everything else. But what is very valuable that should not be deleted, if you're going to trade this live or even just watching and recording live trading data, you want to keep those log files because they're so valuable. You can use those logs to analyze with future AI prompting for other things, but that's because it's live data. You can use that as another form of back testing, not just back testing static data, but actual bid and ask spread data. If that's what you're collecting, very valuable. So keep that as well. I hope that makes sense. So Navido asks, I trade energy power, and we have 30 to 50 terabyte weather data, so I can't have it locally. So if you're storing it locally via cloud, I'm assuming, obviously you need to improve the connection into it and finding the fast databases to handle it. My question is, if you're tracking weather data, how relevant is it to keep a history of it? I guess I shouldn't say that. I guess there is an importance there. The problem is that that's a pretty specific, a very specific niche. I really don't know. I don't know if I have a really good answer to that, because it's like third party custom data. I wish I had a better answer. I just don't know. All I could say is get a bigger database and better cloud for better throughput. I just don't know how to answer that because I don't know what you're using the data for weather. I'm assuming you want to store it also for back testing. Because the thing is, you have to remember, well, let me put it this way: if you're tracking, depending upon how many strategies you're using, what I do now is part of my back testing. I could dump all my data, okay, and usually I only care about the last 2 years of data for back testing. So what I do is I could theoretically get rid of all the old data it collects, and then every time I generate a new back test, I'll just ask it for the last 2 years of data. 4 hours, that's what I do, and just back test off that. In terms of weather, I'm not sure how important that is beyond, let's say, 2 years worth. That's something I don't know if I can answer for you. Colin asks, have you tried DeepSeek? Even with the free version, it takes a large prompt size. Yes, I have. I haven't mentioned this. I was getting so frustrated with the C++ business because basically what's happened is I was using both Kimi K3 and Claude Haiku 4.5. So C++, where the application was 100% C++ and it was massive. And for instance, if I was wanting it to log in to get something and ask it to find a solution, it would find the solution and code it up. But down the road, if I started to code up other changes or additions or fixes in the code, that one fix would get wiped out. So you're going around in this crazy circle of you fix one thing, and then what happens is future fixes wipe it out. That comes down to context. I talked to somebody, I don't know if he's on here, he's pretty well on here every week. He knows who he is. So this was mentioned in his corporate environment, in enterprise, we'll call it. They have an MCP server that manages all the legacy code. So somehow when you make a fix, it goes up against the legacy code to make sure it's not, I guess, extreme, and nothing gets. It's very tightly regulated. Something like GitHub, which I'm not really using a lot. I don't use GitHub at all, to be honest, but maybe I should because of these problems. But that was one of the reasons why I dropped the C++. It was I was just going around in circles like a dog chasing its tail. So when it comes to DeepSeek, all these other cheaper models, Chinese models, because I was getting frustrated by this problem, I just asked one of the Claude models, Haiku, tell me which Chinese models are production ready. So it went through, looked at the DeepSeek pertaining to my problem. It also looked at Minimax, and it also looked at, there's another one it looked at. But it came back and said it was not production ready. So basically what the use case was, where if there's a news story somewhere online related to an instrument and has impact on a strategy, what it would do is I'd have to get something like Gemini to go out and look up the website and give me a summary of the web page for that headline. The only two that could kind of do it was Perplexity, and even an older Gemini could do it. All the other models couldn't do it. So I tested that against all the major models. The only ones that could do it, as I said, were Perplexity and Gemini. So at the same time, it said Minimax can't do it. It's not production ready. The other one was DeepSeek, couldn't do it. Didn't matter which model it was, Pro or the free. So that should answer that question. The problem with those models are they're in a state of, if I'm going to look up the price of oil and I use 3.2 DeepSeek, it's going to give me back stories of old stories where that price of oil would have come back from an old data, like a dated news story of the price being what it was 2 years ago. The same thing with a lot of these other Chinese models. So the only advanced model that could go out and actually download a news story in real time where it had the most current price was Perplexity or a more advanced Gemini model. And because of that, and doing what we do in trading, that is critical. So a lot of these Chinese models can kind of do coding, but the problem is, depending upon the language, the the programming language, and the application. DeepSeek and all them, the older or the freer ones, are capable of putting together, and I keep saying, Python, JavaScript, HTML, no problem. I think they're very capable of doing that. Once you move into C++ or more advanced languages, it may struggle. The quality of code might not be great, and that's why if you are going to use these open source, as I said, the only ones I'd recommend today, August 4th, 2026, is Kimi K3, and the newer one, I haven't tested yet, I'd like to get my hands on it, is the Quant 3.8. If you can do that, go through Hugging Face for that. So that's really important to know, okay? Because otherwise you kind of waste your time. It depends upon your programming language. That's really what it boils down to. But if you're doing simple stuff like, but a trading system and using AI to come back with news related, no, none of these will do it except maybe Perplexity properly. And my other Python system works great, but it doesn't do that as well. It's using a series of RSS feeds. But again, it depends upon your use case as well. But generally, if you want to push it, these free Chinese models may not cut it. You have to go paid, especially as things get more sophisticated as well. I hope that answers your question, Colin. Navido comes back. Well, I have to train my models to forecast the weather. Deep learning models, so I would assume that you need a cloud-based, yeah, database for the storage. Yeah, I think so. You probably want to look at from if you're doing your own local. I've just watched actually a video. From what I'm told, the standard is Postgres open source database because it handles all the because it's a vector database now. So you want that. In terms of technical nitty gritty, I'm sure there's a lot of places that will do storage on those type of databases, but you'll pay a lot of money because of the size. If you want the provider, I would recommend, but I think it's gonna be very expensive to do what you're trying to do. It's Vultr, VULTR. I know they do hosting on Postgres as well. It just depends. It's the problem. How from Nuvi? How are you, Nuvi? How fast are you able to get your Python? The Python process I talked about maybe a week ago before I started trying to do it all in C++. In C++, it was very fast, but now because of the amount of data it gathers, the futures options backtesting, I think it takes up to 2 hours for it to run completely. But if you looked at the data that comes out of it, you would think, yeah, you can't move off it because of the trading bots that created, the second generation trading bots that get created, and all the detail that comes with it, and the back testing, the spreadsheet. I might do a complete run through video of the whole process just to bring everybody up to date. I think that'd be very useful for people. Colin comes back with, "Hey, are you using VMs or a physical machine?" I'm using physical machines now. As I said, if I'm using rhythmic data, there's a couple of things that led me into the problem I'm in. I'm only using physical machines. So in the world of rhythmic data API, as I said, you have three API choices. You have the .NET C# one, you have the C++ one, and the Python one. The good thing with Python, which also supports JavaScript, that enables you to bypass not using the Rhythmic software, like similar to the Interactive Brokers Trader Workstation. So you're able to directly communicate with Rhythmic servers without the need of having any software to connect into. That's one of the reasons why I like Python. So there's that. And it can also they will support you on Linux. The third, now when it comes to C++, I'm using the Rhythmic RTrader Pro or whatever they call it. That's Windows only. So I'm stuck on Windows, PowerShell, and I'm fine with it because PowerShell is fairly sophisticated. So I'm just using physical hardware, no virtual machines. Now, if I ever decide to go into cloud, obviously I'll have to go with that Vultr, as I mentioned, because they have pretty decent Windows support, remote Windows support. It's not that bad. It's around $30-$40 depending upon which Windows server you want. So that's pretty good. Yeah, so that answers that question with the combo or the VMs. So hopefully that'll help you out on that. Now, if you guys got further questions, fire away. I'm here for that. Now, as I said before, my original goal when I got this Windows... Oh, another question. Nuvi. Turns out I need to build a WebSocket to use Rhythmic with NinjaTrader. Would you trust AI to build that? I think the tools are very possible for both Rhythmic API, if that's how you're doing it, with Ninja. Uh, Personally, I would rather just dump Ninja and build a custom front end based upon what you want, build it with AI. The problem is the WebSocket thing. WebSockets are not reliable to communicate data. A lot of the AI models will default to WebSockets. I've tried it, and it's not reliable in terms of you know information from one to if you from one end it's being sent to the other end, the client server, let's say, it may not get all the information you need. So what I would replace the WebSocket theory on is using something like Redis. Redis is very good for that, and just use an older version of Redis, like an open source version. There's a ton. There's also open source alternatives to Redis, like forks of Redis. And then just use like a simple pub sub. It works all the time, 100% reliable. So that's something I'd definitely look into. NAI can build you out if you want a fairly sophisticated front end. If you do it in JavaScript, it's very good at that, including the charting. I've tried to build live charting with front ends like HTML and JavaScript. I haven't been very successful with it. It's very kind of expensive, but why even do that when you could probably have another tool that can look up your account, your trading account. And yeah, so I can mention the trading account. Usually, if you want to have decent coverage on charting and journaling, which I think is really important to learn as your system trades. A lot of that can be driven by AI. So that's where you can get your charting and seeing how your trades do. As I said earlier, you might want to hang on to your trading logs, even though you don't live trade. But if you're able to hang on to as many trading logs as possible, that will show the open, high, low, close that you're doing, or maybe even better bid-ask spread, or the bid-ask. Those are very valuable because then you can use that as a data source for AI to analyze that. So if you're building out a static strategy or trading bot, that data from the logs can tell you how to get better entries and better exits. You just submit the log itself and just submit the log and say, why am I not getting entries for today on this trading log? Or how can I improve it? How can I get higher profit or better entries? It's very powerful to do that with AI, specifically with the more advanced AI. But as I said, the Kimi and even the DeepSeek's very good at that. And Quen, yeah, can be good. Because you got to remember, some of those Chinese models are built from quant shops, namely DeepSeek. So they'll be built around for that purpose, and they're quite good at it. So if you guys got questions or comments, let me know. I could go on about what happened. So when I built what I have now, as I said, Rhythmic API only allows one connection at one time. So you can only have one connection running. So if I have a system that's connecting into Rhythmic servers in the API, that will be competitive against the trading system in C++. Now the two options I have are either, which I've been trying to do, and converting everything into C++, which is a big failure. The other option is to have both systems coexist. So you have the Python one, and that whole purpose is to generate a set of bots based on the freshest set of data, again, for features and options. So it will run just before the market's open, and hopefully they get the job done by 8:30, let's say. So you launch that, or have PowerShell launch that at 6:30 to 8:30, and then you have the system, the C++ system, run pre-market before the market opens, 9:30 my time, Eastern Central. Depending upon what you're trying to do with your system, if it's going to day trade, have the system exit by, I don't know, 4:15, let's say, close out all your positions, and then just repeat the process the next day. Now, the reason why you don't want to overnight trade with small futures accounts or options accounts. The CME, when you put on your positions in futures, you have a margin requirement. Now, if you have a small account, your margin requirement will shoot up a lot after around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, when the markets kind of reopen for the night. So what happens is, if your strategy is wrong and takes on a wrong position, or something happens in news overnight, those margin requirements can like blow up. Now, if you don't have enough funds in the account, you will be hit with liquidation and then liquidation fees, which are very excessive. And the overnight margin requirement is very excessive as well. So if you're starting out, you need to kind of get used to the daily hours. As you get more experience and you have more a higher in the trading account, then yeah, you can add in the overnight as well. But when you're starting out in futures and options, you'll be forced to only work in the daytime hours of when Chicago markets are open. So hopefully I'll help out there. But you can use either PowerShell to turn on and off certain systems. And then you can also internally within the trading system, the C++ one, close out all positions by whatever half hour, 15 minutes before your market closes. So you have a lot of flexibility there, but you have to ensure to do that unless you want to get hit with these excessive margin requirements. So Nuvi asks, when building, remember to ask the AI to collect important data. I have found it's a good idea to gather data in a CSV file for a post-trade analysis. Yes, anything that you could submit as part of your prompting for AI makes the AI much more accurate, have higher quality of output as well. If you're generating code, the coding will be much more realistic, and the less the AI needs to simulate your coding or simulate your data, it's going to be wrong 100%. So if you can actually provide real world market data, even if it's historical data from your broker exchange like Rhythmic, that's the best way to do it, and submit that file CSV or whatever format as part of the prompt. It's more expensive up front, but you're wanting to get the best possible outcome in your coding if that's what you're doing. Otherwise, if it's simulating, it's the AI is just going to guess, and your coding that you get back is just not as good. So yeah, you do want to submit as many files as you can, or data, real world market data, as part of the prompting. I think that's important. Or trade options spread that reduces the overnight margin. Yeah, you could do that, Nuvi, as well. Yeah, I mean, options can be still risky because of shocks in overnight news flow as well. But that is very possible. So that is an option. I mean, to be honest, if you get a big enough account, what you can do is just trade like 75% of what you're trading in options. And then, as I said before, you use the futures as your downside risk, whereas you build out your trading strategies in options, and then have all these synthetic things going on in your strategy between the futures contract, along with a bunch of option strategies or option contracts you take on. So you can do that as well. And with the options, if you get the call right, it's unlimited profit. So yeah, that's another good option as well. And one thing I could put out there, if you're going to be in a place like Asia or Europe where you're not awake during the market hours for the US and Chicago, what you can do is, as a tip to see what is trading overnight, is just, I always say this now, Google search bar chart, most active futures. So you can do that, and then you can see what's trading overnight. Some of it will be oil, gold. Surprisingly, the U.S. indices are moving now. One thing I should mention here, my futures broker just mentioned that they now have, I don't know when it's live should be live. 53 different stocks now that you can trade, like your Facebook, sorry, your Meta, your Nvidia, all the big stocks now that on the U.S. exchanges now can be traded through a futures trading account. I have not gotten the details on that yet, if it's through the CME or who's running that. So that's going to be, or is now, a new option as well. So that's another good thing about these futures accounts now too, because I think they're trying to compete against obviously the mainstream equity brokers like the Robinhood and the Interactive Brokers. So that's news that's been out for about 2 weeks now. I haven't looked into it, but after today and Friday, you start to think that the U.S. Markets, stock markets, are starting to perform because supposedly the big tech companies are looking good with their last quarterly reports. So there's a lot of money being poured in now. But yet, on the other hand, we still got two wars going on, and those can impact quite easily. And we already know about the gerbil mind of the states and his unpredictability and just crazy volatility there as well. Who's got other questions and comments as well? I think I've been up to 36 minutes. So coming back to what I was saying, so originally I had two APIs competing against for the same rhythmic connection, which was Python and C++. So my original concept was, thank you for the like. The original concept was just house everything in C++ in one application. After a week, up until Friday, Saturday, $1,000 later, it's like, I'm not going anywhere. It's wiping out my changes, fixes, and all that. So today I went back, and lo and behold, I've got everything back up to where it's at and should be, including today's strategies, bots, and even market news. So we're back to where we were like a week before last. So I'm already there. So now the next steps are to start digging deep into strategies again, high performing strategies. Everything looks good. If you've watched my long form videos, everything's looking good on the analysis front. So I'm going to be more investigating that before I start trading live, because I've been wanting to trade live for a long time. And I keep saying I'm too scared to mention, oh yeah, I'm going to trade live with real live money, and never pans out because of some stupid thing. But I'm pretty sure I'm sticking with this combo of what I have now. So there's that. We're fully caught up, and I don't like to say, yeah, I spent quite a bit of money going down a rabbit hole. I just don't want to go down. And the thing from that is, don't stop to think that if you're doing something, a big application in C++, that the AI is going to be your solution. It can be, but expect it to wipe out changes. And as I said, the only way to get around that, I believe, now again, I believe, is either GitHub, which I've not really used, or an MCP server of some kind to maintain the legacy code as well. I just go, yes, 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 do this. Every time the AI goes through its coding, I go, yes, 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 do this, yep, 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 yep. And I just don't look at it and not really give any real thought to it. And it just wipes out all the code. So if anyone has any suggestions there, let me know. Is the U.S. intervention in Ian making a mess in the market? Good question, Mr. CNN, and welcome. Yes, it is a big deal because most trading in the whole entire U.S. financial system has been really built around the carry trade, which was the yen weakening, and traders and pretty well a lot of the financial system built around that trade, carry trade. So obviously it hurts Japan, makes things more expensive as Japan has to import product. So at some point they have to intervene, which they did. The U.S. helped support them and the yen, but this is going to get worse because both countries are in really bad debt situations, and something's going to give. I don't know what, because this what they just fixed today is going to continue, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And at some point, it's basically a house of cards. The whole thing's built on a house of cards. And one of the things that keeps it running is the carry trade of the yen. So yeah, it will at some point break. That's why they're moving into the stable coins and all that. So it's just all smoke and mirrors, really, to keep it alive and keep it going. It's kind of like more fraud than anything. Nuvi asks, I am using code from GitHub to feed the AI. I find it better to ask it to build on an existing framework than start from scratch. Yes, I'm the same way where I have a coding base internal in VS Code, but it's just local, so it's not on my GitHub because I don't use it. I'm not sure if that can help prevent AI from overwriting itself, or having the AI overwrite its fixes and just go around in a circle, like I said earlier. Because as the project grows, and again, this has only happened to me in C++. As that project grows, the context window is not as big. Now the Quen one is supposed to be massive, like 2.8 trillion or something. But I still think you're going to run into the same problem. So you have to find a way to maintain the coding changes, and if it's through GitHub, so be it. I just don't know what the fix is. I do know Python. I haven't seen it ever. I only seen it in with more sophisticated languages like C++ and C Sharp, specifically C++ because it takes a lot of coding to get something done. Whereas Python, it could take maybe 2 lines. So that has a huge impact. As I said, if anyone's got a solution there, I'd be more than interested to find out, so I can figure out how to proceed with that. Let me also say, you got to remember, I'm using Haiku 4.5 with all this and Kimi K3, where their context windows are very small. So if I moved into something like Fable 5 or Opus 5, that might help. But then at the same time, I'd have to sell probably a couple of arms and a leg to afford it. It's just very, like Claude is so expensive. Last week I was spending about $100 a day to get this thing done, and it ended up being just a rabbit hole, waste of time. So fortunately, I did everything what I need to do, which is massive in itself, this Python analytics thing, and I didn't run into any of these problems. And I made everything very modular and separate Python scripts, so I didn't have any problems there. Whereas I was trying to build this monolithic C++ application, it just couldn't maintain any of the context because it fixed something, 3, 4, maybe 5 prompts later, it wipes it out because it's changing something that impacts that prior code, and you just go around, like I said, just around in circles. Very, very frustrating. I'm sure there's a way to maintain it for sure, and it's going to be either a very expensive option or a sophisticated option. So Nuvi says, with Claude, I asked to create a changelog. I also copy the working files on my PC till the new version compiles. I was doing that too. All the major stuff, you could do that, but it's a real pain because, and these are not big changes that I'm doing. And if I had to back up the code every prompt, it would just be a complete mess. Now, I'm sure there's a way to maintain that. Like if you have, let's say, 5 prompts, and then you want to go back 3 prompts, I'm sure there's a way to do it. Maybe in GitHub. I just got to investigate that. Right now, my goal is just to continue getting a system up and running. In terms of this kind of tech, I'm not really high priority right now. But one day I'd like to have everything in C++ for sure. One thing I'll also say is with the C++ application, I had it working with Python, and then as it grew and grew, that was part of the other, I think, one of the sources of the problem, because with the Python, it was just adding so much extra code it didn't need to. So what I did was I said, okay, drop the Python stuff and make it only available trading bot strategies in C++. It worked out better, but I still ran into problems. So it was really frustrating. I don't think I really want to go down that path again, because you like the entire, at least 8 days of 18-hour days, $1,000 later was just a complete rabbit hole, unfortunately. But lesson learned, right? If you guys got other questions, let me know. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate it. You guys got questions any further? And as I said, if you're on Instagram, thanks for being part of the Instagram, because I'm impressed with the numbers I'm getting on Instagram. Whereas I'm not getting the same love on YouTube for some reason. I don't know. Bigger audience on YouTube. I think just YouTube's more competitive. I don't know what's going on there. So let me know if you got questions or comments, because right now, as I said, I'm back to where I was before I started this thinking of creating a monolithic C++ application on work with the Python. I was just a complete blowout. I really thought I was going to accomplish that, but no, unfortunately. So, but I'm glad to say I'm back to where I am before I started that process. So, who's got questions or comments? As I said, I've already kind of covered at the beginning some of the stuff. I don't know. I'm not getting any questions on the higher level beginner stuff. But what I will say regarding my hfcode.com, because now I have a process that's developed that's creating a Python script, and I can just press a button called transpile to C++. I can now maintain and post coding samples or coding projects for both on my hftcode.com. So I'm thinking I might start a subscription service for that. I've already running a poll on my YouTube channel on that to see what people are willing to pay. I actually found one person that said they're willing to pay the $500. So, woohoo! I think it'll be starting at least $100, but it will entail all the strategies and backtest if I want. I can do research reports. I can do all kinds of stuff with the AI now from that code. And all you gotta do is just build out your own server to whatever broker you want to handle the trading bots. And it doesn't take long. I was surprised I was able to do it in a few hours with the Haiku 4.5. So it's not difficult if you know how to code, you know how to prompt. And if you want to learn, instead just go to that website, hftcode.com, where I have those two sample packages to get you started. Nuvi asks, for your options trading, are you using the standard Black-Scholes model or something else? I'm not doing any options trading right now. I don't think I ever will until I'm up to at least 20K, maybe 25K in an account, because there's always a number of contracts needed for the options. So there is that to consider. In terms of the models themselves, it depends upon what AI you use. With the LLM that I'm using, because that was built by Claude, the standard one it's using is Black 76 as the model base. Instead of Black-Scholes, it's using Black 76. So that's what it chooses from Claude. I don't know why. I'm looking at the site. Thank you, Colin, for letting me know that. So there is that. Thanks for sticking around, Colin. I appreciate it. Yeah, because like I'm starting to see that the Shopify stuff is my profit center. So what does that say going into the future? I don't know. I mean, do I stay on Substack? Do I stay on my Wix site? I don't know. But I'm making cash from my Shopify site, which is hftcode.com. You guys got any other questions or comments? Let me know. And just a reminder, starting pretty well September, the end of August will probably be my last stream for a month. So you will most likely not see me in September. As I said, I'm off to Europe. That's booked and paid for, so that's not going to stop. So just as a reminder. You guys got any other questions or comments? I think my next video is going to be a complete walkthrough. The sad state is that people will not stick around for the details of some of these reports. As an example, one of the reports is to me so valuable because it's telling me what particular trading firm is buying how many puts and put and asks on particular contracts. I've never seen that in any news or any source, and there's different types of participants for different reasons. So that sort of insight helps you out in developing trading bots and how to trade for the day. And it's shown in my trading bots as well. So as I said, going to try to keep everything kind of like a day trading style. Probably just futures only for a while, and then hopefully build up the account to that 20, 25,000, start really going hog wild on the options. I think we're kind of in a good time right now as the stock market hopefully will pick up for the long term now, going into the rest of the year. This is pretty typical as well, where we see the performance there. So I'm hoping to ride along on that, because when you look at the analysis, everything's in S&P 500, definitely in the NASDAQ, and even in the Dow Jones. Just look at the bid ask, because I've shown it in one of the videos, just goes, but you compare it to other assets like one of the agricultural, it's doesn't move as much, not even including Bitcoin as well. Whereas gold, oil, and the market indices are the big ones that move fast, because that's where the liquidity is. And that's why I say go to bar chart and do the most active futures contracts, and you'll see what I mean. Nuvi asks, would you ever consider the streaming live? I have considered streaming live trading. Yeah, I have. I think people are more drawn to seeing the money come in than the mechanics behind it. I totally agree. That's something I'm definitely thinking about. Now, I don't. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't go against my terms of service with Rhythmic at all. But I could do that not live for free, obviously. Could I do copy trading? Probably, but it's I'm more into teaching people how to get there than the actual trading itself. That's too easy. But the whole original concept of the other site, the orderbook.com, was to talk about the data and the liquidity and the flow of data. That was the whole point of that. So I could post there and maybe get an AI to quickly develop a post for that sort of thing. I could do that. It just depends upon what people are paying for, because this type of data you're looking for would be pretty valuable. And a lot of times, live streaming, I could do for sure. Not every day, you know what I mean? Because that's part of the secret sauce stuff. Anybody else got any questions or comments? So let me know if you want me to put out a video, a long form video on the whole process that I got working now. I'm probably going to stick to, based upon my experience of that rabbit hole, that expensive one. Just give me a yes if you want to see a yes. Give me a yes if you want to see a very long form video, step by step, on the type of news we can see, the options, the futures, the back testing, how these trading bots are created, how they're being fed back into my other system that will be put into for live trading. Okay, we got a yeah. So I'll just do it once, and if I only get 10 views, that's fine too. So I'll do that maybe the next day, or even tonight. That'll be a very long video, but the question is if people will actually watch it. Anybody else got a yes for that? I'll take it as enough from you, Newbie. Thanks for that. So anybody else got any questions or comments? No? I mean, I'm happy to be close to an hour for tonight, even though I said I wasn't sure I'd be doing it. But I'll definitely be doing the regular next week on Tuesday. I think people get used to that. Okay, so let's do a going once, twice, three times. If you got any further questions, let me know. Type them up ASAP. Okay, so I'll do a going once. If you got questions, let me know. Usually people ask right at the last minute, but that's cool. So going 2 times, going 2.5. If you got questions, just type up a letter for all I know. So going, oh, wait, okay, that's what we want. Colin's got a question. Yeah, that's okay. If you got more questions, Colin, just let me know. I'm here for however long you want. That's why I do the countdowns for exactly that. No problem, Nuvi. I can answer any further questions you want. As I said, I'm pretty well 100% sure I'm not going to do anything major anymore. I really want to get into live trading. I've got the cash lined up. I've got the tech there pretty well is in place. The strategies are in place. So I'm pretty confident there. What I was hoping to do with the C++ is to have an overlaying AI, like an agent that would watch the logs or the data and then readjust the strategy itself for better entries. That can be done for sure. Colin asks, how do you deal with multi-core? Are you able to distribute workloads across cores in the C++? Yeah, one thing I'll mention about, I think there's some positive lessons I got out of this rabbit hole. Depending upon your AI model that you're using, you're not going to get this with, you might be able, I should say, you could probably see these answers in Kimi K3, which is a much cheaper model, about 1/20th of what Claude would charge. So when you get into debugging problems, because there's a period of a day that this app was crashing, so I'd say, why is this crashing? Here's a log. Kimi was so sophisticated that it knew it would, because there's two types of threads that were being developed. I was using IMGUI, and then there's a standard thread as well. So Kimi came back and suggested, well, take this process and put that on a dedicated thread. And then if there was anything to do with the GUI, there'd be an IMGUI threading. So there were all these threads that would coexist. Then Kimi came back and said, this is going to conflict with that. It's very sophisticated to get the multi-threading completed and fixed. And Kimi K3 was very good at that. I was quite shocked at it. But there was a point where I had to bring in, as I call, the big guns. So I ended up using Opus 4.8 to fix whatever it was, again, which gets expensive. But the AI, whatever model you use, depending upon how advanced it is and how much you're willing to spend, can debug really nicely, especially when it comes to multi-core, multi-threading stuff. So yeah, it can definitely do it right. Hopefully I'll answer your question. If you guys got more, let me know. That's a good question. I should have covered that. That's more of a low-tech stuff. But yeah, the Kimi and Opus is Opus is very capable of it. I do think the Claude 5 models are very sophisticated to do that. But the question is, are you willing to spend that kind of money? I was just listening to a video and a guy was running a Claude code session to reverse engineer some game. And it took the AI 2 weeks to finally come back with a solution. So he had Claude code running for 2 weeks solid. I could not imagine the cost to run that kind of prompting to get the solution completed. It would be in the thousands. Colin says, a comment I've seen in Bloomberg programming videos where they disable hyper-threading, and it's interesting that the Intercore Ultra 2 stop multi-threading altogether. I can't comment on Bloomberg and what videos you're watching. Like everybody has their own solution. All I can tell you is, from what I've seen and firsthand experience, is that, as I said, the Kimi K3 and Claude are very capable of debugging, even if you were to involve Intel. Yeah, so one thing I can say about that is one of the things why I never mentioned the OpenAI 5.6 models. I haven't really played with them, but I kind of played with them. The OpenAI is a totally different coding style. So once you introduce, let's say you do a coding project in Claude, and then you want to go back in and doing some multi-threading with an open AI model, be prepared to have coding really, really bad because the coding style changes where it goes very low level. Same thing with the Grok 4.5. The coding style is very different. It goes back into very low level coding style. So it's not readable from my point of view because I was working with C++ 20. So I'd rather work with something that's more readable and that makes sense. It's a little more current with the compiler version. So even knowing what I know about OpenAI and Grok model for coding, I think those models, unless you're starting to create a complete C++ project from those, either of those models is fine. But once you try to cross into using Claude or in my case, Kimi, you will start to get mixed coding styles, which can not help. Just depends again what you're trying to do. If you're trying to make it readable, human for human, I think Claude is still the best, but it's really, really expensive. But I'm hoping, like from what I'm saying, Kimi is very capable of debugging, laying down some nice code. And this is again for C++. So yeah. So full circle perpetuals, welcome. What could somebody expect to spend on tokens using Claude, using trading bots 5 days per week? Well, I can give you my first-hand experience with my rabbit hole. Again, it depends upon the language. If you're doing C++, I spent $1,000 just in 1 week. It was $100 a day. Depending upon your AI that you're using, let's say if you use Kimi, which could be roughly 1/20th, 1/4 of the cost of Claude, that might be best. And Python would be best. So Kimi's the way to go. So let's say $25 a day. Just saying, I don't know what you're trying to do with your bots. Now, if you're trying to run agents on top of it, 24 hours, 5 days a week, that's the problem. Is that's where the costs come in. That's why a lot of these providers want you to use agents now because they want you to use the AI constantly just to make more money. But if you can develop trading bots that are, we'll say, static, that's the better goal. And try to stay away from the agent mindset because once you go into the coding agents, you'll get killed on the compute, on the cost of the compute. So you try to want to keep it simple and keep it static. Because once you get in that agent world, running it 24 hours or 8 hours with an agent, you're going to get killed on the cost. Really, I couldn't recommend it. But I'm just trying to give you the best examples I can give you in terms of cost from what I'm seeing. Kimi is really good. Quen, I don't know yet, Quen 3.8, but they say it's very good. But again, I said earlier, if you want to experiment, the best option right now, and probably the only real reliable option, is use Hugging Face and use the Hugging Face extension with VS Code. It's using the GitHub. I think it's a MCP server they're using, so there might be some advantage there. But also be aware with Hugging Face that you're only, if you're trying to do coding in Python, the really good models, the only ones you have are Kimi K3 and the other one, the Quant 3.8. But I mean, GLM 5.2 is pretty good too. I've used that and I've been pretty happy with that too. That was only with Python. So Colin comes back. Have you ever considered using a VPS or virtual private server in the cloud to host your trading app? Yeah, I have. I'm doing it right now on a laptop. That's the ideal way. And then, as I said, depending upon your OS and who your broker is, in my case, if I'm using Rhythmic, the only ones I can really use is Windows. So that's very few options there. And the one I like, that's Windows servers available, is Vultr, VULTR. You can get a server there $40, depending upon your Windows Server needs and version. But you can get one as low as 20, 30, $40 a month. So that's a very good option. And then you could travel and let the thing run on its own. But again, you have to be confident in the trading strategies that's running. But yeah, it's very possible in today's world. Where do you get your trading data from? As I said earlier, I'm using Rhythmic futures and options. So it's Rhythmic, and that's through a standard, popular futures trading broker, spelled RITHMIC. Again, RITHMIC. I prefer them way over interactive brokers now. I mean, interactive brokers is fine for beginners, but when you want to get serious, I'd use something like Rhythmic. There's also CQG. They're very expensive for what you can get with Rhythmic. Like for instance, if you want API, you spend about $500 a month with CQG, whereas with Rhythmic it's $100. So hopefully I'll answer your question for you. Full circle perpetuals. Have you guys got any other questions or comments? Everything can be done in Python, no problem. I think you could do live trading for sure with Python. Just remember it's medium frequency. No problem, full circle. Yeah, so I do think Python is very good. The only reason I'm doing C++ is because I did the poll and people wanted C++, so I'm probably 50-50. It's safe to say I can do Python research with Python, and I'm generating a lot of models with it. Better news analytics as well, and then I just use that, generate the bots, let the AI decide what the best performing bots are for the day that could be deployed, and then use the other C++ one thing, and just so people may not know, but I can transpile that Python trading bot into C++. That's one of the big features that I haven't talked about tonight at all. So that's one of the big things with that. So again, I can take a Python trading bot that my AI, my reports show me that look good for the day. I push a button, 2 minutes later, I have a C++ version. It's powerful. Yeah, C++ is much faster. Is obviously the other big advantage too. I'm new to coding, so I'm starting small. Yeah, for you, Full Circle, Perpetual, and anyone else watching, do not go down the path of C++. If you're going to try to vibe code with C++, very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. You're better off to master Python, master the concepts of coding, master the concepts of architecting, master the concepts of debugging. It could take you definitely a couple of months because you're going to run into problems like I did, and you could end up spinning your wheels and spending money, a lot of money. When you look back on it, you go, man, I could have stopped there and just stuck with this choice and made that choice better. But part of me was wanting to make the thing 100% C++, and I got burnt for it. So I'm not complaining. It's just a fact of life. And I've been doing coding since I've been, well, how long? 40 plus years, I'll just say that. If you guys got any other questions or comments, good session tonight. Appreciate you guys being here. As I said, even though it's unannounced and stuff. Yeah, I'm an old fossil, I guess. But I do love coding. But the AI, it just makes it a lot better. I mean, for the type of coding that I was doing last week with the C++, the debugging of the multi-threading and whatnot, that would have taken me probably 50 times longer than hand coding it, for sure. For sure, for sure. If you guys have got any other questions or comments, let me know. Should I do the countdown again? Seem to got some people rejigged there. Oh, started coding in 1991. Colin, yes, I know your story. Yeah, man. I've been probably late 80s, 80s. I probably go back as early as 83, to be honest. I started doing BASIC on a VIC-20. And the VIC-20 was before the Commodore 64. So that's how far back I go. There's nothing wrong with saying you like coding, because I do like coding, and I do think AI makes life a lot easier and more interesting. But I just find it was frustrating, especially in C++ and C, to look for some dangling pointer it took you like 3 days to find. AI can find it in 2 minutes. But I reminisce. But Python's pretty good too, and it makes life easier. But Python has its limits too. Full circle. Do you know of any website or stock strategies to use in programming? I create them. I've got 3,300 of them right now. To be realistic, I have about 300 that are potential deployable, and maybe another 30 out of that would be decent profitable ones. So I'll have that, and as I said, I might turn that into an hftcode.com subscription service for those. So I might do that soon. I think people may want it. I don't know. Just let me know. You mentioned that someone may have had a trading bot that lost money, but why code you're losing strategy? Thank you. Losing strategy. I had to say, I think part of it, in my case, I didn't do anything wrong. It was just the ego was telling me I want everything in C++. So I could imagine somebody so married to a strategy, that they don't want to give up. And it could be losing money. And they'll just double down, double down, double down, never learn to walk away. I was the same way. I was just like, do I really want to continue down this path? But when I started seeing the AI overriding my fixes, is like, that's it. That was the day. That was the moment I just said, back to the drawing board and go back to what was working. Yeah, thanks for letting me know, Full Circle Perpetual, about wanting this type of service. I think it's very possible it could be something that people want. The only problem is, because I'm with Rhythmic, I can't show you coding samples on how to develop Rhythmic coding or anything to do with the API. I keep saying terms of service, terms of service, terms of service. So I can't get around that. I could show, and I already do show examples of that with the current coding set that I have on that site, hftcode.com. That exists, and that's good coding projects you can work with Python and interactive brokers and Claude Code as well. So that's a good introduction, and you can develop all kinds of stuff for that. And the AI keeps saying I should charge $300 for that. Maybe that might come about one day. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for your likes and stuff. You guys got any further questions? If not, I'll do a countdown again. Just waiting around if you guys got questions. I'll be here next week, just to remind you. I know you have a lot on your hands now, but would you be looking to update your book on HFT? No, because HFT, as I said, the real HFT stuff, to be realistic, you'd have to have millions of dollars in an account. For the people I've talked to over the last, let's say, 15 years, like just that want help, nobody's come to me saying I've got $1 million plus account. So the demand is maybe there in retail world, but practically, will they do it? So then my question is, why put out a book that no one will actually implement and act upon? And not only that, but with the AI, the way it's going, it could outdate whatever I put out as a book or update. It'd be outdated within a week anyways. So everything does come down to process with AI. That's the name of the game. So Full Circle Souls, thank you, no problem. Come back next week if you got any other further questions. And if you want, check out, if you're new, as I said, I recommend people to go to hftcode.com just to check out like the two different packages there for, as I said, Python, Python, interactive brokers, the broker, with Claude Code for AI. And that can be your source to help you develop some kind of code base to work from, and even go live trading very quickly, because you have that working code base. I've had people, not one complaint yet on it. So I'm hoping to say it seems to work because I don't have complaints on it. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for coming about. I appreciate that. I hope some good snippets came out for Instagram. That does amazing. Same with LinkedIn too. So if you guys got questions or comments, let me know. I'm gonna do a countdown because it's an hour and a quarter. No problem there. But just to get more people's creative juices flowing in terms of more questions. So as I said, I'll do it going once. I go in twice. Just type away if you got anything to add to the stream here. Go in 2 1/4. We'll go there. Go easy on you. So if you've got a question, type away so I know, like what Colin did with a weight. Going a 2.5. Going 2,3/4. Oh, wait. Colin again does it. Amazing. I'm waiting, Colin. 3, we're done. No, I'll wait for you, man. You had some very good questions, Colin. And as I said, I'm always here at 7 o'clock. I know your time. It's the same time as me. Where you're at, I know where you live. Well, I know what country you're in. Oh, good question. So would it be a good strategy to day trade automation or not when the market has gone down and you're seeing a reversal? That can mean anything. It depends what you're trading, even in stocks or crypto, if they still have people trading those. Day trading is okay. What I think you got to focus on is the process of developing your strategy, process to tweak it, process to optimize it, and process to watch data and have tweaking and optimizing. So day trading is where the highest volume is at. So the answer is yes. A lot of people come back and say don't do overnight trading if you don't have enough, a big enough account, and if your models or strategies aren't profitable consistently, don't do overnight trading. Overnight trading is good for people that invest. Okay, so people that buy and hold, that's fine. This is a different type of trading, which is really overnight day trading. That's at least from my perspective. Everyone's going to have a different answer, at least from my perspective. That's how I answer that, at least from my perspective. Any of you guys got any further questions? Colin, you're number 1 for tonight. Very good. Who's got questions? I think we're back and forth on the audience sides here. So I'll do it going once, twice again. If you got a question, Colin, just type away. Okay. So going once. Oh, Nuvi comes back. Coin. Colin, my 2 cents. Build a market regime indicator, a Marco model. Yeah, market regime indicator. And you got to remember, in this day and age, this is part of what my analysis will show. There's so many regime changes within a trading day because of the news flow, because of the gerbil mine in the States, right? Like you go, no, we're going to have a peace deal with Iran, and then 2 hours later says, no, we're going to blow them up. That in itself is going to like have such negative volatility in the markets, unpredictable as well as I say. So hope kind of that would be my opinion on the market regime, but that's something I would look out for as well. Thanks for the answer, Nuvi. You guys got any other questions at all? Comments? Okay. As I said, I'll be back next week, Tuesday next week, 7 p.m. But we can continue. So I think I'll put together that long form video, a very long video, I know, with the demos and see what happens. Bring everything back up to date on how everything works. So there's that. Brian, I'm good. Okay, no problem, dude. So let's do it going once, going two or twice, going 2 1/4, going 2.5, going 3 times. I guess we're done. All right, so we're done. Like I said, I'll be back. I'll be back to my emailing. If you're not on my list, get on my list. And make sure you click the subscribe checkbox because my system, by law, will just forget about you. You have to check that subscribe box explicitly. Subscribe checkbox to say you want my emails. All right, so we'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching, and we shall see you next week. Over now. Bye bye.